Morning decisions. How about a creamy mocha frappuccino drink? Or sweet vanilla? Smooth caramel maybe? Or a white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Find Starbucks Frappuccino drinks wherever you buy your groceries.
Hear that? That's now Crispy and McCrispy strips meeting Creamy Caesar sauce. Sounds extra crispy. Caesar sauce at McDonald's for a limited time. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Get business done with the new American Express Graphite Business Cash Unlimited card. With unlimited 2% cash back on all eligible purchases. Unlimited 5% cash back on flights and prepaid hotels booked through American Express Travel Online. And a flexible spending capacity that can grow with your business. You'll have the confidence to keep building. Apply today and earn a welcome offer of $1,500 cash back after you spend $50,000 in qualifying purchases on your new card within the first 6 months of card membership. Terms apply. Learn more at go.amex/graphite.
Maybe I'm abrasive, maybe I'm too much, but baby you're elusive, tender to my touch. You treat me like a demon, a damsel in distress. The devil's in the details, and baby you're a mess. Oh, I wonder what you'd say to me now that a witness to you not going out. I've been learning the hard way. So be still, I'll set you free. Go be the beast you're meant to be. 'Cause I'm embracing the heartache. Tell me, is it me alone that ignites the fury down inside?
Hello, everybody. Welcome back. It's Jay Scott, and it is The Hook Rocks, the ultimate rock community podcast. Thanks again for tuning in. We always do appreciate it. We are part of the Pantheon Podcast Network, a great network of music-related podcasts. There's so many great podcasts on pantheonpodcast.com, including the official Metallica podcast, the Metallica Report. So please check out that and all the others. And don't forget to check them out on social media, Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, at Pantheon Pods. And you can do the same with The Hook Rocks at The Hook Rocks. You can also set your app to automatic downloads to get the latest episode right to your phone and get to enjoy all the other episodes. We've had a tremendous start to the year. We've had some great guests recently. We had Joe Satriani, the great guitar player, Scott Halliday of Rival Sons. We had Tuck Smith. We had, so many others. It's just been a great start to the year. So please check out all those and more. Also, Kimmy Shelter from the Starbenders. She was on recently, so that was great. And we've got another great new artist today, an album that I've been listening to since it came out earlier this year. Just captivated by it. The album is The Prize, and the artist is singer-songwriter Hannah Wiclund. I'd like to welcome Hannah aboard to The Hook Rocks. How are you today?
I am wonderful. How are you doing?
I'm good. You're on tour right now, right?
I am. I set up shop this morning in our little Airbnb right before we check out and make our way to Boston.
Nice.
Yeah.
Where are you heading from?
We played, was it last night? No, we had a day off last night, but we were in New York City.
Okay.
Big Apple the night before.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, we always start the same way every time we have a first-time guest. And that's really the essence of the show. Just like every great rock song has a hook that pulls you in, every rock fan has a moment, whether it's a song, an album, a band, or performance that hooked them on rock and roll. What was it for you?
Oh gosh, one moment. I really have to say one of the moments that I distinctly remember being completely captivated by music and being just completely in awe was when I was like 6 or 7 years old. I was watching the concert for George with my dad, And Anushka coming out and playing sitar, I thought was the most inspiring thing. I've wanted to play sitar ever since. I haven't picked it up yet, but I had already been playing piano, and that was shortly before I picked up guitar. And I think that entire concert was just, pretty stunning. But that moment in particular, I think seeing her be such a badass on that instrument was quite a moment for me.
And where did it go from there? From that moment, what led you down the path further with music, artists, songwriting?
I was already kind of on my path at that point. I think I'd been playing piano since I was about 3.5, and I started writing my first song. I have my first songbook from when I was 4 years old, and the Beatles were a really big part of my songwriting adventure, because when I started playing piano, it was like I would have my piano lessons, which a lot of times were classical based, and I would do more competitions, stuff like that. But I had a Beatles Easy Play Today book where that was literally the only music, like the real songs that I ever learned. So that was my entire foundation was the Beatles. And then by the time I picked up guitar at like 8 years old, the first 2 songs I learned were Rockin' in the Free World by Neil Young and It's Good to Be King by Tom Petty. So I have my dad to thank for all of that epic music, but it's been a really continuous kind of nonstop kind of snowball from that point. And I started my band 6 months after I picked up guitar, and we were covering, a plethora of different types of classic rock songs. So, whenever anybody asks me who my greatest influence is or something like that, of course I have my key players that I love, but I was really taking inspiration from everywhere. Like I was learning 1 or 2 songs by this artist, 1 or 2 songs by this artist, and we were gigging out and playing. And so I was absorbing a lot of music, but I was performing right from the get-go. So it's always kind of been this 50-50 balance for me where I enjoy the music and I take it in, but writing it and performing it has always been, that equal and opposite reaction for me with music.
You write some of the great songs lyrically that I've heard in a long time. And as far as songwriting goes, was there an artist, was there a song that captivated you into writing music and expressing yourself?
I genuinely don't know if I could label one distinct song, but if I had to kind of comb through my memories, Oh Darlin' was the first song that I really consider my, like my party trick song. That was the song that when my dad's friends who were musicians would come over to the house for dinner, that was the song that I would perform for everyone. And I started doing musical theater at the age of 5 years old. And I did that only until I started the band. So I had like 3 good years of being in the musical world. But whenever I would do my auditions, Oh Darlin' was the song that I would perform. And I definitely credit just the full Beatles catalog when it comes to like the foundation of my songwriting, and the songs that I was really absorbing were all theirs. So yeah, I think in the world of the way I put songs together, I think I have them to thank. And I think especially now as an adult, looking at it with a little bit more of like a magnifying glass, they were the kings of having a simple song, but it wasn't as simple as you would think. If you go to learn a Beatles song, there's going to be some different chords. George Harrison loved, his kind of sharp 7 weird things he'd throw in there. So there's all of these little nuggets of inspiration within all of their music. And I definitely set out when I started writing music. I really consider the songwriting side of me to really have started when I was like 10. And it was always my goal to kind of write something a little bit more interesting and to have some part of the song kind of catch you off guard. Not every single song of mine do I like throw in a crazy bridge or something like that, but I definitely at this point in my life can see where I make my attempts to be different,
I think it's amazing how the Beatles were to simplify everything. And that is really the beauty in their music, because people do make the mistake of thinking that it's not good because it sounds too simple. Anyone can play this, but not everyone can create it. And it's bands like AC/DC gets the same thing. They think AC/DC is just 3 chords and that's it. But to create that music is just so difficult to make it sound so easy.
Oh yeah, no, that is actually a prime example. The third song that I ever learned inside of the band environment with the Steppin' Stones was TNT. And that was right after, I'd only been playing guitar for a few months. And when it came time to sing and play, I was pretty much singing and playing guitar from the second I picked it up. But once I learned TNT on guitar and singing that at the same time, it kind of unlocked and made every song that I learned from there on so much easier, because it's such a staccato, like it's a riff. And then the vocals are doing something completely different. And obviously, it's 2 different humans performing those 2 parts, but to try and accomplish that as, like an 8-year-old little girl, that was a challenge. And I definitely credit AC/DC for helping me become a better musician. And, we covered TNT and Problem Child and and Brian Johnson actually had a really, really huge impact on me as a 12-year-old, because my band and I were playing a private party for a vintage car racing team. My bass player, next door neighbor, was on this team, and it was basically just a bunch of dudes that get together and race their vintage Porsches and BMWs and all that. And Brian Johnson was on the team. And so we did this private party for them on Hutchinson Island, right off of Savannah, Georgia. And I'll never forget, I was covering Gimme All Your Lovin' by ZZ Top, and I see Brian Johnson had started like a conga line, and there were only like 30 people. So it was very easy to see exactly what was going on from our, stage, AKA a patch of concrete, and he got up on the mic and he said, at the end of the set, if these kids don't go onwards and upwards, it's their own damn fault. And I really took that to heart. And I was like, okay, well, I'm not going to go to college. Thanks, Brian. I'm going to just pursue this thing. And, so the simple stuff is where you can really find yourself inside of it too, for learning songs and for getting your start in music. Those songs leave room for interpretation. It's much different from learning a classical piano piece where you have to play it note for note and you're scored based on how perfect you play it. Rock and roll is a much more free-flowing, free-feeling experience.
Brian Johnson starting a conga line, only a handful of individuals can ever say that they've witnessed that, Hannah. So that's pretty cool.
I consider myself very lucky.
That is awesome. I can speak to it because my son plays guitar, and he was doing a School of Rock audition for their house band. And had to learn an AC/DC song, and he thought that was going to be the easiest song to learn out of the group of songs that he had to do. And he was so frustrated because he said the rhythm patterns were so different each time that you had to remember, like, because it's all a groove, like you said, and it's different. So it's not like the same, rhythm pattern all throughout the whole song. It changes throughout, and that was the genius of it. And to add to the point too, again, comparing them to the Beatles, if it was so easy, everybody would make music like the Beatles and AC/DC, right? Because the whole beauty of it is to take this music that is way more complex than people think it is and make it sound easy to the human ear. That's the whole essence of it.
Yeah, and definitely inside of the recording studio, the simple songs are always the hardest, to really capture, or at least to make sure you get right. When you start layering a ton of stuff, it becomes epic based on the layering. So the ground floor of the song or of the track doesn't have to be as hammered out, or it doesn't have to be as interesting, because if you have 65 tracks on a song, then that is a lot of the essence of the song. If you have, like a billion harmonies and you have like harmony guitar parts and all that stuff, that's the ear candy. So if you strip all of that away and you have your, 3 instruments and a voice, your ear candy has to come from those rhythmic change ups, and your ear candy has to come from, kind of tongue-in-cheek little musical moments, which I love. I love when we're doing a simple, quote unquote, simpler song, but we're playing off of the lyrics with the music. And it's just, there's all these like different opportunities to create magic inside of a stripped down version of a song,
When did you find your voice lyrically? Okay. That's always something that's interesting to me with songwriting is, there's different ways to write. There's your own personal experience. There's observation. There is a story that you want to tell. When you began your journey and you went through piano lessons to Oh Darling to the Congo Line with Brian Johnson, when did you feel like you developed your voice lyrically of what you want to sing about, or the point of view that you want to sing from, or is that still being developed?
No, I feel very fortunate. I've kind of known who I am in a lot of areas, but especially as a songwriter from an early age. I remember very distinctly the first song that I wrote where I was like, okay, I know this one's good. Like I remember that moment of being like, I want to write more songs like this. And it was a song called Versus the Villain that I wrote when I was 12 years old. And actually I have a photo of me with Brian Johnson holding up my first EP, which this song was on. And it was definitely derived from personal experience. That is 100% who I am as a songwriter. I write from personal experience, and I'm definitely not a storyteller. I mean, I am, of course, but I like to tell my own stories, and I'm definitely a little bit more of an emotional writer than like a fact-based, writer. But this song Versus the Villain, like the first line is, with every lie you tell, it sprouts a dead tree, and quick enough a forest is surrounding me. One of these days sparks will fly. And I still love that song. And I actually am releasing, it should be dropping to DSPs this summer. Right now it's a vinyl exclusive, but this record of mine, more like an EP, a 7-track record called The Living Vault, which I recorded last year with my brother at his studio, but it's songs that I wrote between the ages of mostly 12 and 16. It was basically me revisiting my best of from my teenage years, because by no means were all of the songs that I was writing at the caliber of, Versus the Villain and some of those other songs that I included. I like to call those other songs filler songs on an album. But it was very important to me to honor where I came from, especially coming off of The Prize. The Prize has been, my new record has been a project of a lifetime, and it really brought me full circle. And part of that full circle moment was kind of honoring the young girl that brought me to where I am now. And so I kind of got to dissect a lot of these songs in a different way and from a completely different perspective. I was writing songs at 16, from one point of view that then when I was recording them again at, 26, it was like, wow, I was writing about some interesting things as a teenager, and so I think that with each record, because I started, our first EP was at 12, and I did another EP at 14. I did my first full length at 15, and then another full length at 17. And those were all under the Stepping Stones, and those you can't find online. You can't listen to that music. But I think all of those records, and then including the one that I released 6 years ago, which a lot of people perceive as kind of my first record, which is definitely how it looks. But they were all definitely leading me to the point of where I am now. So while I found my path early on, it was definitely more of like a snaking around it. And now as a songwriter, I feel fully constituted in who I am and what I have to speak about. And, I kind of accidentally, I like to say, I kind of accidentally wrote a female empowerment rock album. And that was very important to me. And I don't think that's my full identity. Of course, it's a huge part of it. And that is the essence of The Prize. But I am very excited to see where my writing goes from that point, because now I just feel like the best version of myself, that I've been able to experience thus far. So it's a very exciting moment for me as a songwriter. And yeah.
Finding your voice is the most important thing for songwriters, obviously. How do you say you write from a personal experience? When you're writing, is it difficult for you to pull out certain aspects of those personal experiences, or is it the opposite? Do you use it to get out any emotion and feeling that you have when you're writing a song, if it's a sensitive topic or something that maybe is hard to communicate with, for you?
Well, I would say there's definitely been a definitive shift in that for me. I think initially with including The Prize, it was more of a sitting down, just emotional release, very cathartic. But there was an event that took place when I was 21 that I'm still gathering the courage to speak about. And that really shifted things. It kind of occurred right before I wrote The Prize, so I wasn't really processing that event when I was writing The Prize. Instead, I was kind of processing what led me up to this very defining moment in my life. And if I had to be honest with you, I haven't been able to finish a song or really sit down and hammer out a song in the last 5 years. Part of it is because the path to releasing The Prize was very difficult in terms of the actual release, and the music business side of that record was quite a struggle. And so I had this batch of songs that I cared for so deeply and truly believed in and were a part of me that I felt like I couldn't abandon them. I felt like I had to really make sure that I found them a home and kind of double down on this record. And so I think part of that kept me a little distracted and kind of gave me the excuse to not be writing because I'm working on this other thing. But I definitely know that with this next record, which I have a bunch of songs, kind of half-baked, I call them, it's going to be very difficult to sit down and lyrically expel what is inside. And so this is actually a very real thing that I'm currently dealing with of experiencing a shift in how I feel when I sit down to write, because I think a traumatic event leaves many wounds and many scars in lots of different places. But I think one of the biggest ones is on my songwriting, because I know that it's basically this, I have to go through it in order to get to the other side. So it's almost like I know that I have to write about this. I know that I have to take that experience and create from it, but it's very scary. And it is very hard to, now that I'm in a happy place in my life, I'm the happiest I have ever been. It's a little scary to think that I have to go back and write about this, but it's not because I have to, but because of like whatever an outside person or what I think I have to. No, I like emotionally and physically have to write about this and get through it in order to get to the other side. So yeah, I'm experiencing a lot with my songwriting at the moment.
They say time heals all wounds. I don't know if I agree with that. I think sometimes some wounds aren't meant to heal. You just need to adapt and live with them. And I think that is, because like you said, sometimes there's traumatic events in your life or situations that you have to deal with that you never really get over. You reflect on them, but you learn to live with them. I think that is the mistake I think a lot of people say when they make a comment like time heals all wounds. With that, what you just said, with getting stuff out and having to write to be a form of therapy in a lot of ways, that can be, in my mind, intimidating and challenging in the beginning, because there's always a point where you have to kind of step off and go do it. But there's also the process, and at the end of that process, there is the fulfillment of writing about it and reflecting about it and having that be part of the healing process. Is that something that you think about when you're writing about these events in your life? That yes, in the beginning, where do I begin? How do I express this? And there's the challenge. Plus, there's also tapping into those emotions and reliving those events. But then at the end, when you look back at a song and a lyric that you wrote, it helps you process what you've gone through. Is that a true statement?
Oh, for sure. And that was the prize for me tenfold. It was a very cathartic, a very healing experience, both writing it and then recording it. And a lot of times, and I pretty much every time I'm sitting down to write, I'm not necessarily sitting down with the intention of like, I'm going to write about this today. It's more that it's more of a flow state. It's a little bit more of, I keep a journal, and in the back of my journal, I have an index of, singular words or phrases or sometimes like a song idea. But I'll kind of rummage through, my own words and find inspiration again. And then that is a lot of times what kind of ticks it off. Or I'm sitting down at a piano and it's just, I'm playing and singing and words are coming out. And a lot of times I don't really understand the full meaning of the song until it's in the rearview mirror. And with the prize, because I wrote it when I was 21, but it didn't see the light of day. It wasn't released until I was 26. I have a totally different perspective and point of view on those songs. And when I'm, doing interviews about them, it's been an interesting experience because I've gotten to live with them for so long that their meanings have kind of evolved inside of that time. And so I wrote things back then that I'm now hearing and I'm like, oh, I really understand that now, but I didn't understand that back then. But sometimes you write things that are a little more prolific than you're anticipating, and then it takes time to figure it out. But I think the next batch of songs is going to be a different experience for writing because I'm going into it knowing that I have something in particular to kind of dissect. So, it's a journey. Everything is. So I'm not going to be the same songwriter that I was 5 years ago and 10 years ago, but that's exciting. So
how do you stay connected to music that you made 5 years ago and, for so many different reasons, it hasn't been released? I mean, there's, industry issues and whatever the case is, but how do you stay connected to that music and now start performing it when you're an artist and you're constantly looking at what's next and what you want to write about, all these personal experiences that you're having or have had that you still need to create and write about? How do you stay in the moment with the songs that you released with the prize that were made 5 years ago?
Well, I've always considered myself a quality over quantity songwriter. It's kind of how I like to do anything in my life. Is like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to give it my all. So, I didn't have 20 songs, that we narrowed down, or, I'm a very intentional writer, which means that I am pouring my absolute heart and soul into any song, especially starting on the prize and moving forward. That they're definitely pieces of me. There's no denying that. They're so personal to me that,
Tomorrow morning is knocking. Stock your fridge now. How about a creamy mocha frappuccino drink? Or a sweet vanilla? Smooth caramel maybe? Or a white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Find Starbucks Frappuccino drinks wherever you buy your groceries.
Hear that? That's now Crispy and McCrispy strips meeting creamy Caesar sauce. Sounds extra crispy. Caesar sauce at McDonald's for a limited time. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Get business done with the new American Express Graphite Business Cash Unlimited card. With unlimited 2% cash back on all eligible purchases. Unlimited 5% cash back on flights and prepaid hotels booked through American Express Travel Online. And a flexible spending capacity that can grow with your business. You'll have the confidence to keep building. Apply today and earn a welcome offer of $1,500 cash back after you spend $50,000 in qualifying purchases on your new card within the first 6 months of card membership. Terms apply. Learn more at go.amex/graphite.
I feel like and I've heard people talk about this. And when I was a kid, I used to think it was really corny. And, when you're a kid, you think a lot of stuff is dumb. And then as an adult, you're like, oh, I understand. But one of those things is when people used to say, I'm sure they still do, that their songs are like children. I didn't understand that until the prize, but that is also now how I feel about the songs on the Living Vault, those cherry picked songs that I'm going to play for the rest of my life. I feel a connection to my music in an extremely deep way. I've been in, I've had a lot of dark moments in my life and a lot of, hardships, kind of flow in and out of my life. That music has been my constant and songwriting has been my main form of therapy. So I am more than happy to continue a relationship with these songs for the rest of my life. And I will say, performing the prize finally 5 years later is quite a liberating, beautiful, happy experience. So yeah, I think when you're writing songs that are really, really, really stemming from you, it's a little bit easier to not get tired of them or to find new meaning in them, and that's the difference of writing a song that's rooted in emotion versus rooted in, telling a story. Because, if I were singing a John Mellencamp song every night for 35 years and, about Jack and Diane, it's like, okay, but I don't know Jack and I don't know Diane. That would be hard for me personally. No shade on the song or John. I just, my songwriting is very, very different from that. And I think that's how I'm able to kind of get lost inside of my music still. And when I'm performing it, especially, I kind of go into like a Zen state, like a Zen flow state where like everything fades away. And it's really a chance for me to, step back in time, but also step into the future with my music. It's just this like really, really awesome experience.
There's always the evolution of the artist. How do you feel that you've evolved from the prize, being that it's 5 years later?
Oh, I have evolved in a lot of areas of my life because of the prize. I think as a songwriter, I definitely still have more introspective songs to come, but I do feel like there is this element of not permission, but the ability to maybe step outside of myself a little bit more as a songwriter moving forward. I kind of was able to process and work through a lot of that, like kind of 16 to 21-year-old curveballs. And I've now lived a lot more life and I've met a lot more people and I've observed a lot more that I feel a little bit more comfortable speaking about other things outside of myself. Because writing about yourself is also, it's kind of for me, it's a safer place because, no one can tell you your opinion's wrong when you're speaking about your own experience. But I think that there is a little bit of bravery that comes in writing songs about the world and more of the social commentary type stuff. And so I think, my evolution, I'm hoping to, be able to step outside of myself in the future. And other elements of my evolution, just when it comes to the recording process, every other record or EP that I've done in my life was done on a shoestring budget, and we had about 10 days in the studio. So it was very much like, capturing it just live. And it was also really about like, can we replicate all of these parts live? And I had a power trio, so we were very stripped down in the studio as well. And getting into the studio with Sam Kiska, who produced the record, we were able to take our time. We were tracking it differently. Some songs we were still kind of putting the bass layers down as a band, but other things we were kind of building up. And gosh, we worked on the record over the course of about a year and a half. So the ability for these songs to, expand and like live and kind of evolve in an organic way, that was an experience that I am beyond grateful for, because I had never had the opportunity to like have fun in a recording studio. Of course, recording records is fun, but it's super stressful when you have 10 songs and 10 days and wiping all of that away and being able to, just try out ideas and test out, weird little moments and all that stuff. And it kind of gave us permission to, make mistakes or go back and change things, which I wouldn't say that we did much of that, but when you have time, you're not as precious with every single thing that you're doing. And, so I think going into the prize, I've always considered myself a live artist. I always feel that I perform my best when I'm feeding off of the energy of the crowd. And that's kind of where I love to live, is in the live setting. And I never really considered myself like a recording artist, but with the prize, I 100% consider myself pretty much equal parts live artist and recording artist at this point. So that was a really important element of this new record. And then in the personal realm, I'm so happy in just my life in general, but I think getting older is such a gift, and I am so much more in tune with myself as a human being at this point, that I think that period of time, being 21 when I wrote it, but being 26 when I'm talking about it and introducing it to the world, means that I'm able to give kind of a different perspective on these songs, and just kind of speak about my life experiences in a much more gathered and a far less triggered place. Because I think the thing that comes with like trauma and the peaks and the valleys is a lot of triggers. And I was definitely burnout and sad and, lots of unbecoming emotions when you're trying to bring people into your world, and so that 5-year gap really kind of gave me permission to process a lot of the things that I wrote about. And, I graduated high school when I was 16 and hit the road, and I've had, the music business kind of really came for me when I was 18. Lots of behind the scenes meetings, lots of false starts and things of that nature. And I was always wondering, I think anybody who is pursuing a music career like I was, it's like you're grinding and you're excited and you're every little opportunity. It's thrilling. And then when things don't work out and when your career isn't quite going the way that you thought it would, it is very easy to get down on yourself and look at what you could have done and be like, well, why didn't this work out? And all of these things. But now where I am, I kind of look at everything. I'm like, you know what? I guess everything really does happen for a reason, because I want to be a good role model for younger women. And I would love to be an inspiration for young ladies to pick up guitar and play rock and roll. And I would love to be able to talk about, some of the bullshit that I went through in hopes that, we can avoid that for other people. And I don't think that my brain at 21 years old was really able to hold space for that alongside creating my own career. And so my role as a human has very much so been put into perspective, and the things that I get joy out of now are very different from when I was 21. And I really enjoy, meeting some younger female guitar players, and like Grace Bowers is one of them. Like, we've been friends for a couple years, and, we've gotten to play together a few times, but we started off as friends. I wanted to just have her not feel too alone inside of this business. And so we we'd go out for, ice cream and tacos and stuff like that. And I really just wanted to feel like, I wanted to be the person that I didn't have growing up. And so, you can only get to that point with maturity and with, years under your belt. So I'm really happy with how everything kind of went. And I think there's a reason why things in my career didn't pan out when I thought they would. I have very much so created my own path and very much so created my own home with this record. I ended up releasing it on my own label. And hopefully one day it's a label that can home, other badass, women and men. And that role, I think, is very much part of who I am. And it took a lot of time to get here, but here we are. So
Yeah, Grace was on the show in October. Just an absolute amazing talent, and it's so interesting to see someone who's really at the beginning of what's to come, because I think greatness is going to be upon her. And, the fact that she is 17, I think, I don't know if she's turned 18 yet, but she's 17 and she goes out and plays in Nashville every night is just an awesome thing, I think, for her and her, again, like what's to come for her career. I think that's tremendous.
Oh yeah, she's been cutting her teeth and putting in those 10,000 hours, and I respect her so much. She's a really great player, really, really lovely person. And, yeah, it's really fun to see the next generation, and she rips, and she is a beast of a guitar player. And, it's really exciting as a woman to see that she's like young and just garnered so much respect from other musicians, and people, that play music have really gravitated towards her. And it's a really, really awesome thing to see. So
last couple questions before we wrap up. As far as the album and the delay in getting it released, how difficult was that for you? I mean, did you ever have those feelings like this music is never going to see the light of day? Because there are a lot of artists where that does happen to, where for whatever reason they can't release it and it never comes out and they have to move on to writing more songs and the next thing.
I never would have accepted that. I would have died before I gave up on this record. But that's honestly where the art element came from. The record was completed and I quite literally had my hands tied behind my back by a few different folks in this industry. And, I decided to double down and, create a large scale oil painting for each one of them, because I had never had so much time on my hands. I was literally, based on the delay, and not just delay, but based on the lack of release plan for this record, I wasn't even able to tour. And like I said, I'm a live artist. I played, I don't know how many shows when I was, growing up. Like, I love it. That's what I live for. And so I found myself at home for like a year without being able to make any money, without being able to release this record. And so I decided I'm going to, create the world and paint the prize and give each song, because I love each song so fiercely. I wanted each of them to have their moment and have their own identity and, prove to people why you should care about this record. And when I found myself, very frustratedly accepting that this record wasn't going to have much assistance, in seeing the light of day, I took over my management. I started self-managing myself yet again. And I've had some fancy named managers. I'll just say that. But for some reason, whenever those men get involved, my career slows down to an actual crawl. And I think it's think people have a hard time putting my music in a box and then adding in my artistic element and all of these other passions of mine that I, want to put my time into. It was very hard for people to know what to do with me. I'll just say that. So I took over the managing side of things, and then I decided, I'd been kind of going about it the other way. I'd been trying to find people to help this music be released. That I was like, you know what, I'm just going to start releasing the music, and let the right people come to me instead. We could call this the Costanza method. And I released my first single, Hide and Seek. And then I released my second single, which I believe, was it Witness? I think it was Witness. Yeah. So it was the second song, the second single. It was the day that I was releasing it. I was connected with my now label partners, through Scooter Weintraub, fantastic manager in the business and a mentor-ish kind of friend of mine that has helped me, through the years. I've been able to call him and check in, and he introduced me to one of his close friends who had just started a label. There were some vets in the business, and, one of my label partners, him and his brother started Enigma Records back in the 80s. And, and they were just some really good guys that understood what I was trying to accomplish and were, rather than intimidated or afraid of how many ideas I had, they were excited. And so, yeah, by the time I released the third single, we had negotiated a contract, and I had built my own imprint, Strawberry Moon Records, underneath Flatiron Recordings. And I am now officially pretty much the CEO, manager, boss, bitch, I'm doing it all. And I'm coming up on the 1-year anniversary of when I pretty much decided to stop waiting on anybody in this business and to just carve out my own home. And so, yeah, and I'm so happy. I'm so happy being the one, to be driving the bus, so to speak.
I envision the business card, Hannah Wiclund, boss bitch.
I'll get some printed up. I'll send you one.
Please. It just frustrates me because I hear stories a lot of what you've gone through, and I don't understand the industry, how you can focus on an artist that you like, a new up and coming artist or an existing one, and love their music, and then have them create the music that you want them to create, and then fuck with it. It shouldn't be that hard of a process. You like something, you believe in something, that artist keeps continuing to make what you love and believe. Now you release it. It should be pretty simple. And it just seems like, for whatever reason, they dangle a carrot, and then they keep moving the carrot back, and they keep moving the carrot in other places, and you got to follow this thing, and you can really lose yourself. And I know artists that have lost themselves because it's a very manipulative process, the whole thing. And it doesn't make any sense to me at all. And I don't think it ever will.
Well, unfortunately, it's the irony is not lost on me, but the prize is very much so rooted in femininity and me coming full circle. And, when I'm performing this record on stage each night, I'm wearing basically like a wedding dress designer made me this beautiful dress and surprised me with it. And it couldn't be more perfect. It's just this beautiful full length gown, a pink gown with flowers and a snake on the top part. And I'm wearing a tiara on stage, and I'm wearing the pink guitar that Sam, who produced the record and is my beau, through the experience. that he bought me that guitar, and now I feel like a princess on stage every night. And 6 years ago, if you had asked me if I would ever wear that or be playing a pink guitar on stage, I would have thought you were crazy, because I had to lean into my masculine so much in order to gain respect inside of my career. And I definitely fell into that, like I wore plenty of black leather pants, I definitely did that rock kind of thing. And so this record really brought me in touch with my femininity in such a personal, close, beautiful way. And it also brought me, I love Sam dearly. And that was a really wonderful element of making this record, was finding a man who understood and cared about me, and held space for my struggles and all that stuff. But we met through mutual management. We had the same manager, and that was how we got introduced. And I truly do think this is the most blatantly sexist thing that's ever happened to me inside of my career. But we were in the studio making this record, and we fell in love, and that manager quite literally stopped working on anything for my career because he called it conflict of interest. But he didn't tell me that, he was not going to be he basically dropped me without dropping me, because if he had officially dropped me, it would have been because of my relationship. So instead, he just took his foot off of the gas pedal, and instead of him communicating with labels about this record, he had his head of marketing sending out emails, like cold emails to labels. And so then I'm, checking in, and I'm like, how are these conversations going? And, they were non-existent because he wasn't doing anything. So it was, Sam was the one that finally told me, like, hey, I don't think he's gonna do what you need him to. And that was, months and months and months and months later. And that was the kickoff to the hardships that the prize faced in the release world. And it's been brutal. There have been multiple other people who have kind of stepped in since. So it's, by no means is the full blame to go there, but that definitely started that domino effect of this record not being taken seriously or handled with care by the people who were supposed to.
You talked about your diary previously in the conversation. Last question for you. If this album, this process is a diary entry, what's the title of the entry?
Oh, that's an interesting question. I like that. It's very creative. I think it would be "Rest easy, girl, you've done well in this world," which is a line from The Prize, and essentially is I had to fight a lot of fights as a young girl and into my young womanhood, and that hardens you, and it's scarring, and that song is really about having love for your younger self, but also like letting go of some of those harder exterior shells that you kind of have to build up to keep yourself safe in this world, and giving myself permission to be softer and be feminine and play rock and roll. So yeah, I think that line kind of sums it up.
Hannah, I've really enjoyed this conversation, and thank you very much for the time. It's been wonderful.
This was a lovely time for me as well. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much, everyone. That is Hannah Wiclund. Get The Prize on all streaming platforms. It's a great album. Absolutely love it. You can find all her links in her website, social media stuff in the show notes. So after you're done listening, just click on one of those and go into the Hannah Wiclund world. It's incredible. The music is absolutely awesome. Once again, I'm Jay Scott. This has been another episode of The Hook Rocks, the Ultimate Rock Community Podcast. Take care of each other, stay safe, and we will talk soon. Thank you.
Come on and cut me loose. Let me free fall with the truth. But baby, there's no love lost when we fight without a cause. Oh, take a look around. Take a look around. There's no love lost. There we go again. We scream and we're not listening. There we go again. Throwing caution to the wind. Caution to the wind. Baby, I feel the hurt. Let's end this war.
Look what TJ Maxx dragged in.
The Devil Wears Prada 2 is now streaming on Disney Plus and Hulu.
We are digital, we are downloadable, we are streamable.
The fashion event of the year is certified fresh.
Pull yourself together, we have work to do.
Critics say it's smart and witty and the perfect sequel.
That's all.
Get runway ready for The Devil Wears Prada 2 on Disney Plus and Hulu. Rated PG-13.